Hello and welcome. This is NTA Tuesday Live and I'm Cyril Stober. Our Nigerians are basking in the euphoria of the release of the Dapchi girls who were held in captivity for 31 days. Now the release of the girls, coming after the government pledged to bring them back safely, has been described as a demonstration of matching words with action in the commitment to the security of lives and property. Now, it has been categorically stated that there was no swap and no ransom paid, but negotiation that is globally accepted and practiced. Now, what are the lessons that can be drawn from this? And what import for the remaining Chibok girls who are still in captivity? These are some of the issues we'll be raising tonight after this report by Adebola Brookslyn Sunday.
The abduction of the girls no doubt brought back the painful memories of a similar event in Chibok in 2014, which took the doggedness and political will of the Buhari-led administration to rescue most of the girls. All over traditional and social media, the news was trending. Both Nigeria and her friends were asking, why are the girl child the target of the insurgents? In demonstration of his administration's proactive nature, President Muhammadu Buhari ordered the immediate search and rescue of the girls.
Not left any stone unturned in making sure that the girls are rescued.
Following the directive, the Nigerian Air Force flew about 50 hours in a surveillance drive that covered northern fringes of Borno State and bordering Niger Republic.
We are very optimistic that whatever we are doing will ultimately, by the special grace of God, lead us to where these girls are, and so that they can all be rescued and reunited with their family members.
Few days later, the Minister of Defense, Masoud Ali, led other federal government delegation to Dapchi to deliver a message of hope and commitment of President Buhari towards ensuring the safe release of the girls. The visit of the delegation paid off as the girls were released after 32 days in captivity. And this was a cheering news for Nigerians both at home and abroad. Following their release, the president ordered some ministers to move to Dapchi to take charge of activities. The government steps attracted commendations from Nigerians and some of the nation's friends.
I really commend the government of Nigeria, to make all this effort to bring them back.
The first step it's a good one. And I really congratulate the government of Nigeria.
Very happy for them. And I think schools should create more tight security.
However, the girls, including a boy, were given a state reception by President Muhammadu Buhari, where he sounded a note of warning to service chiefs.
I want to thank you for saving our life. God bless you, sir.
Security chiefs have been warned in clear terms that any lapse on their part will be viewed seriously.
And when the nation was celebrating the release of the girls, the issue became politicized.
Their campaign to unseat President Muhammadu Buhari is fueling their desperation. Nigerians should prepare to see more avalanche of disinformation and fake news in days to come. But they should also not lend any credibility to such reports. They belong to a trash can.
At some point, you would even assume that the leading opponent to our administration, which is the PDP, it's like they were clinking glasses in their office that Dapchi girls had been stolen. They have to look for a strategy if they have to win the next election. They are not going to win election on the basis of Dapchi because we have won back the girls.
Though the girls have since been reunited with their parents, but Nigerians still await the safe return of Leah, the only girl remaining in the captivity of their abductors. Some of the questions begging for answers now are, what will happen to the only boy among the released victims of insurgents who has been out of school, and what else can or should be done to forestall a recurrence. Adebola, Brooklyn Sunday, NTA News.
All right, that report sets the tone for the first discussion we're having tonight. By the way, tonight it's a double deal tonight because we're going to be having two topics. But first, let's bring you to the first issue we're dealing with, and that's the release of the Dapchi girls. I'd like to introduce to you guests who will be joining us on this discussion. Let me welcome to this program the Special Advisor to the President, Media and Publicity, Mr. Femi Adesina. Thanks for being here with us.
Thank you. Good evening.
We're also here tonight with Brigadier General John Temlong, who's the pioneer commander of the Multinational Joint Task Force, BAGA, and he's the president of the Alumni Association of the National Defense College. Thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
All right. And joining us from our Maiduguri studio is Major General Nicholas Rogers, who is Commander Operation Lafia Doli. Thanks for being with us here.
Thank you.
And also joining us from our Lagos Network Center is Captain Umar Aliu, a security analyst. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Good evening. Thank you.
All right, as we always do on this program, we acquaint you with the procedure. At the appropriate time, you can get to be part of the discussion in the studio. The various platforms will be on your screen. We advise you take advantage of those platforms and join in the discussion. Now, however, for those who will be phoning in, we say this every Tuesday. When you get through at the appropriate time, do us a favor, turn down the volume of your TV set. Just reduce the volume. That's the best way to avoid the hurlback or the echo. And the best way to know that your call has been passed through to the studio is you'll see your name appear on screen. Once you see your name on screen, it means your call has been passed through to the studio. We advise that you go straight to the point, ask a question or make a comment. Our guests will respond to such issues as you might raise. And let's also say, don't bother too much about greetings. Just go straight to the point. Once you see your name appear on screen, go straight to the point. Don't bother about all the greetings. So thanks for joining us. And once again, welcome to NTA Tuesday Live. It's all about the release of the Dapchi schoolgirls. And Nigerians generally, and particularly the parents of those girls and the Dapchi community, woke up to the news that the girls had been released. I know so much has been spoken about it in the last few days, but take us through it again. How did this happen?
Thank you. Well, the country woke up on Wednesday. It will be a week tomorrow to hear the good news that the girls were back. According to the negotiators, the release was to take place on Thursday, but the insurgents decided to bring them in on Wednesday. And they did it at the first light of dawn, so that Dapchi itself woke up to see the girls in the center of town. All those who say it happened during the day and who have been passing pictures around on social media just created those things. Because the truth is that at the time the girls came, you couldn't have taken any sensible picture. And of course, the way Boko Haram came in full force, nobody would wait to take pictures. So all the pictures that are circulating are just make-believe. They're not real pictures. So they came very, very early, dropped one girl in, I think, Gaydam, because that was where she came from. And as they were passing through, she must have indicated that that was her own area. They dropped her. And then they went to Dapchi and dropped the remaining. From there, it became public knowledge that they were back.
Right, okay, but as you've just explained, why so many issues were raised about that was people thought, well, if the insurgents decided to bring back the girls, no one had any inkling. Now, was that part of the negotiation as to grant safe passage to the insurgents so that they could come in, drop the girls, and then leave without any challenge whatsoever?
Yes, it was part of the deal. The deal was that the insurgents insisted that they wanted to bring the girls back themselves, and there had been some ceasefire agreement not known to the country a few days before. So the ceasefire held for some days till they returned the girls and they left.
All right. Well, we'll be taking up other issues on this, but let's at this point go over to our Maiduguri studio where we have the commander of Operation Lafia Dole. Now, with this happening, I suppose the first thinking of people would be, well, there are still some girls being held in captivity in Chibok. And so they're saying, with all what has happened about Chibok girls, a number of them are still being held. How did the Dapchi thing come to happen? That the insurgents just moved in and they had free reign and they took away the girls.
Well, thank you for this question. What happened was that we are deployed across the theater, and then when we reviewed the strategy of our deployments and did the risk assessment, there were threats in Kanama and Gaidam and other fringes bordering Niger Republic. And based on that, we had to move troops forward because Dapchi has never been attacked since the issue of insurgency started in this country. And as I speak, Dapchi has never been attacked, was never attacked. And because of the gap and the massive land space we have, it wasn't possible for us to cover all the gaps in land space in our deployment. And these are the gaps that the insurgents used to come into Dapchi and take away the girls. We expected when we left Dapchi and moved forward to Kanama, Gaidam, and other places in the far north, we expected other security agencies to take control of the places that have been liberated. So that was the gap.
Right. There are those who have said that there are many questions. Now, we'd just like you to set the record straight. In the wake of the release of the girls, there were many conspiracy theories. In fact, at some point in time, there was something of more like an argument between the military and the police. And some people went out and said, look, the military hierarchy was directed to withdraw. And as soon as they had done that, the insurgents went in and took the girls, suggesting that there was some sort of conspiracy to take away the military commanders from the military station around there so that the insurgents could do it. How do you respond to that?
For those who don't have basic military knowledge, they can say that, but that is not true. Deployment in the theater is based on threat analysis and for us to deal with the situation and the challenges of the insurgents. The idea of leaving Dapchi to move further, not only Dapchi and other places, to move further to confront the insurgents, particularly in the bordering areas, because they've been defeated in the hinterland, and they are now moving too far off to the shores of the Lake Chad areas and areas bordering Nigeria-Niger borders, Nigerian-Cameroon border, and the shores of the Lake Chad between Nigeria and Chad. So it was premised on this that troops have to be relocated based on threat analysis. There was no collaboration by anybody or any force to say any instruction from any higher headquarters asking soldiers to withdraw. We can't withdraw, we only move forward. We couldn't withdraw. The use of the language withdraw, I think it's very wrong in the military terminology. We just moved forward, we didn't withdraw from Dapchi. And we expected, like I said earlier on, we expected other security agencies to take over all liberated places. If they've not done that, then there's an issue. Because I know there was a letter written to some other security agencies as far back as January 2017, and also in April last year, asking them to take over these places that have been liberated. And if they didn't do that, then they can be asked questions why they didn't do that. But that will not stop us from moving forward to occupy spaces where we think there are gaps to deal with the insurgents.
Let's come back to our Abuja studio here, and we have Brigadier General John Temlong here. And we're looking at this scenario. There is an ongoing war against insurgents to dislodge the terrorists. And so far, at a point in time where Nigerians were beginning to breathe with relief, that the insurgents had been using the terms that we have all heard all the time, decimated, and they're not as degraded, and they are no longer as strong as they were. And suddenly, they moved in with ease. Yes, Dapchi was never under threat. But isn't that the way with insurgents? Look for sub-targets?
Yeah, thank you. I think insurgents always look for soft targets. And if you know the terrain that we're talking about, having operated in that area for a long time, it's quite a vast terrain. It's impossible for you to cover everywhere with troops or with manpower. The problem that we have, which I've said often here, is that you defeat an idea with a superior idea. The whole issue is an ideological thing, because they want to impose their own ideology. They want to impose what they want, and that's how they'll be able to radicalize people, recruit people. The force of arms is there to keep you in check, and when you cross the Rubicon, for it to be dealt with. Now, when you deal with this aspect, you have not actually defeated the idea. And so definitely you must take steps until you defeat the idea itself. Then you will now say that you have defeated the whole concept of Boko Haram as a whole, as an ideology. Now, when you degrade them to that extent, they will definitely be looking for soft targets, because they will not be able to withstand the might, the kinetic might of the armed forces. And so they will move in the gaps. And the danger or the problem with asymmetric warfare is that they are within you. So they know where you are deployed. They move to you as friends or as people of that community. They're carrying out recce. They go back and see where the gaps are, and they infiltrate into those gaps. And as the theater commander said rightly, is that when you do a threat assessment, you continually evaluate the security as you move on, as you fight. And when areas have become less threatened, you move forward to confront where you think, or where you have been given information, or where your intelligence have told you that there are threats there. So it's normal for the military commander on ground to move and relocate his forces. Nobody will sit down here in Abuja and start telling him to deploy his troops here, here, here. No, it's not done that way. He has been given an assignment there in Maiduguri. It is him who will now do the appreciation and estimate of the situation in that place and deploy his troops accordingly to combat those troops. So nobody will sit down here in Abuja, the commander-in-chief or the chief of defense staff or chief of army staff, and say, put one soldier here, put one unit here, put one unit here. Then it means he's no more in command. Then it means they're commanding from here. So for every action that is going to be taken, then he has to wait there. So it's an abnormal in military operations. Once you are given your task, you are given the resources to accomplish that task, it is your responsibility to deploy your troops accordingly to deal with the tasks and achieve the objective that you have been given to achieve. So the problem is easy for them, bearing the vastness of that area, and in the absence of technology that we don't have, which is supposed to be a force multiplier. Because if you have technology, then technology can cover areas that you are not physically on ground and be able to relate to you. So that force multiplier is missing. Because if you had eyes on the sky, eyes in the sky, it would have been easier for the commander, whether he's in Maiduguri or he would have moved to the front line, to be able to see and monitor all the gaps and all the areas in this area to see the movement and infiltration of terrorists to the areas they are going to do. So definitely we have to bring in technology as a force multiplier in this crisis, and it has to be what it should be in the future. Definitely we must look at technology. The idea of human manpower, yes, is there, but technology must take the lead.
All right. Let's go back to our Lagos Center now. And Captain Umar Aliu was there with us. And, you know, we put the same questions to you. We just had the Brigadier General Temlong talk about technology. And with all this happening, you have a situation where just about every Nigerian has become a security expert overnight. And you hear all kinds of comments. So put this in perspective for us, please.
Well, ever since the situation happened, I'm talking about the kidnap of the Dapchi girls, social media has been agog with as much and as many narratives as you can imagine. Narratives bordering from the ridiculous to the incredible and all that's in between. And that's not unusual when you have platforms where people can go and talk free. From my end as an analyst and in my consults, we pull this cesspool of narratives and we begin to kind of look at them from a dispassionate perspective and just see what exactly the stuff is and what the distractions are. I'll recommend that to all our military, paramilitary, and the allied agencies. There is no room or need for denials, neither is there room or need for acceptance, but there is actually room for us to look at what is being said and glean off what we can from it. Now, going into the issue of what General Temlong said, we cannot, and I say again, we cannot begin to hold that ground you call the Northeast until we are able to establish what you can call an absent presence in areas where physical manpower cannot be deployed. What do I mean by absent presence? You can call it virtual presence, and technology encapsulates all of that. You cannot begin to spread our soldiers across the vast terrain within that theater of operations. And because you cannot do that, what you require is to have, as the general said, force multipliers. And these force multipliers come in various forms, one of which is to have what you can call a virtual presence, a virtual area bird's eye view of the terrain. And there are enough options and solutions for doing that. Options that can actually pick people the moment they transcend or exceed certain numbers. Options that can pick movements. Options that can even pick vibrations, as in vibrations that can be made by 5, 6, 10 vehicles in areas where on a good day you shouldn't have vehicles. These things are very key to assist our troops drive the momentum of their missions. So if we decide to actually go get our girls released and those little loopholes remain open, you're going to see what I call a recycling of the scenario. What is a recycling of the scenario? The insurgents will never take the Nigerian armed forces in pitched battles again. That's what being decimated and degraded means. That does not mean they've been obliterated. And we agree as security practitioners that a chain can only be as strong as its weakest link. So you can expect the insurgents to take you from that weakest link. So what we are looking at today is where we can begin to strengthen the weak links. And it's not about the army alone. When we talk about the Northeast, most people just think army. No. other sister security agencies, down to even security practitioners at the local level of traditional rulers and their security, their local native security teams, they all have a role to play. But then this role has to be enforced, has to be leveraged by giving the core arms of our fight in the Northeast the required technological edge on the situation as they will require.
Right. We'll return to you in a moment, but back here with Mr. Femi Adesina. Some skeptics have raised this question. Can you really say that no ransom was paid? Because they say, well, I've heard comments like some girls were taken away, a large number of girls, over 100 were taken away. They were kept for just about a month, a little over a month. Of course, while they were in captivity, the insurgents, the kidnappers, the abductors, at least to some extent, fed them, kept them somewhere, and it would have cost something, no matter how little, somewhere, to keep 100 plus girls in captivity. And if they would so gladly release them without a dime, the skeptics ask, so what was the point in taking them in the first place? And there was no swap, as you say. It's not as if we'll release some of our members and then we'll give you back the girls.
Yes, it's a matter of whether we believe or we don't. There's a saying that to those who believe, no explanation is necessary. But to those who don't believe, no explanation is possible. So it's either you believe or you don't believe. We have heard from those who championed the negotiation, particularly the DSS. They have told us no ransom was paid, no swap was done. It's either we believe or we don't believe. I happen to be among those that believe. It suits me fine. Those who don't believe, I don't know what actuates them. I don't know what spurs them into that unbelief. But I think it's good for us as individuals, it's good for us as a nation when we believe our leaders, particularly those who have proven themselves to be people of integrity. If I have not caught a leader lying to me before, whatever he says, I choose to believe it. But the day I have caught him lying, then I may be between and betwixt when he tells me things, whether to believe or not.
We do have some Nigerians who say they want to know the details, and yet you hear security experts tell you that there's nowhere in the world that the details, the fine details of negotiation can be released to the public, and that these are highly sensitive and security issues that cannot be in the open. Now, a lot of people would like to point to countries that say they do not negotiate with terrorists and ask, why can't Nigeria be like that? What do you say here?
Thank you. As a policy, some countries will tell you that they don't negotiate with terrorists, but we have known that in the past, even the Americans that spearhead that, they have done some negotiation with terrorists, and including swapping here and there. So it is in your own national interest. Actually, it's your national interest that you look at. It is in our national interest to have these, our daughters, back to us. It is in our national interest to have them back alive. Yes, you could decide to use kinetic force to try to free them, but the danger there is that you might lose some of them. Now, it's not possible to give out the fine details of all these negotiations because sometimes some people that are involved will not want to be named. It put them at risk. And it probably, at the same time, too, it will make the terrorists to lose confidence in you, too, at a time. Because sometimes it even includes some outside countries that are involved in the negotiation. And they don't want to be named in the negotiation, so you definitely do not. But as time goes on, usually you declassify information. And there is a dearth of writings, actually, that has been going on in this country. People don't write out the experiences and the rest. But I'm sure that in the future, people will continue to put down these things in future. And these fine details that we're looking for, if we're alive, they will come up.
All right. Well, our lines are already open and the calls are coming through. We have calling in from Bielsa. Osborne. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I really appreciate your program today. And if it is true that ransom is not paid about this kidnapping of the Djibouti girls, it should have been a better one from the government. And more so, I will be so glad that this thing done amicably.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I appreciate help. Thank you, and God.
Right. Thank you very much, Osborne. Now, back to our Maiduguri studio. General, yes, you did say that Dapchi had never been attacked. Dapchi was not seen as a threat. But in the light of what has happened, has the status of Dapchi changed now?
Well, after what happened in Dapchi, we have to re-strategize again and take another look at the general deployment in the theater. That I've done, and I've made some adjustments. And some of these things are not what I come to the air to tell people how I've deployed, but I've done make some adjustments to make sure that some of these areas that are vulnerable are well protected. And thank God the president has given marching order to the Nigerian police and civil defense to take care of the schools in the northeast. So we are more concerned in protecting the local communities now. But the deployments are basically military deployments and not for public consumption for now.
I suppose that the people of that community and Nigerians everywhere would like to know, because we heard that the terrorists also issued a threat, even as they returned the girls, and said if they went back to school, then they would come down hard on them. What can you say about that, and can you assure the nation that that will just remain an empty threat?
Well, that is a terrorist strategy. They've been doing that right from the outset, trying to condemn Western education. But we have our own strategy to deal with the situation. The girls have been relocated to other schools that are peaceful in town, in places where we think are well secured. So the issue of Dapchi is not a problem for us. We've marshaled out strategy to take care of Dapchi. Not only Dapchi, but some other towns that we think they are very vulnerable to attacks like that. But like the Captain Umar said, and General Temlong said, the terrorists will always go out for very soft targets, and the issue of confronting the Nigerian army, I don't think we'll have a space where the terrorists will come out and want to confront the Nigerian army. But we'll have issues of they may be hitting soft targets, and that is part of terrorism and the concept of terrorism. For a long time, we'll have issues of that challenge. But we also ask the local community to come up with their own local strategy to protect their communities while we do our own at the strategic level of military operations and tactics.
All right. Okay. Well, back to Captain Umar in Lagos. You spoke of the nation developing new strategies to go beyond this. What are the best strategies that you can develop at this time? Because you see, it's been said over and over again that what we're dealing with is not what you will surmount totally with force. And that, you know, there are examples in other countries of the world, even highly advanced countries, that have had to deal with situations like this over years, that it never really ends.
Of course, once terrorism sets foot in your national area, you don't expect them to leave overnight. Terrorism is a business. And so long as the socio-cultural and political environment accommodates what they look to exploit, then they'll stay there. And talking about these solutions, that's a very interesting question. But let me start by telling you directly that the solutions and strategies we seek are not military, have nothing to do with the military. I'll ask so that I can align your thoughts. Shouldn't we have a blueprint by now in the Northeast for doing things, not counter-terrorism now, but anti-terrorism? What I simply mean is, Have we had blueprints for how schools should be run? Have we had blueprints for how gatherings, religious gatherings, probably exceeding 200 people should be run? Do we have blueprints for marketplaces and how they should be run? What is the blueprint for, no puns intended now, customs, immigration operations in northeastern Nigeria? Can they really use the same strategy they guard the borders in Idiroko with to do the borders in the northeast? What is the police blueprint for operations in counter-insurgency environments or anti-insurgency environments? What role must traditional leaders, religious leaders play? You see, fighting terrorism is one big cocktail party, and everybody has a role to play. It's not an exclusive army, guns, boots thing. The army is not perfect. They have their setbacks. But then I tell you, if we want to talk strategy, then we don't even need military strategies at yet. That which we have done to decimate, degrade, suffices. We still need to go down to bring about strategies at those little, weak areas of this chain I'm talking about. We must strengthen it, or else they will just exploit that.
Those are issues we'll take up with our other guests here. But let's go back to the phones, and we have Williams calling in from Calabar. Hello, Williams. Good evening.
Yeah. Our program today is quite commendable. It's a matter of program of national interest, because like the analysts are talking, they are taking a point that terrorism is a big business, and it's a big business. You see, issues that are coming up in this manner are putting intellectual capacity into the marketplace, where kidnappers will come, kidnap children, and return them back. No ransom, no negotiation. No ransom was taken, and all of that. Who is shopping on whose head? Who is who is cajoling others? I mean, how does it sound that people will come negotiate and you can access them to negotiate back the children and you can't capture them? In this case, I'm not talking about the army. They are doing a very good job to protect this country. The DSS is also doing the same thing. But if we can identify the people we can and negotiate and get back our children, why can't we stop them at the point? So please, let more effort be geared towards resolving this issue once and for all. It will bring Nigeria to a perfect place. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you very much, Williams. Well, right here, Femi Adishina, and we talk of blueprints, strategies. It's not a military thing all along. And we see that even as efforts have been made to stem the insurgency and take charge of, improve security in the country, there's always the element of politics in it.
Yes, but I'll say it's a bit unconscionable when you begin to play politics with everything. It depends on the kind of politics you said now. Is it politics as in politicians exploiting the situation?
Exactly.
Or
everyone wanting to make gains out of situations.
It is regrettable, and anybody that does that is somebody to fear. Because when you see misery, when you see unfortunate things, and you begin to cash in on those things for political ends, then you lack conscience. You lack conscience. When Dapchi happened, some people were actually rejoicing, saying, well, under a certain administration, Chibok happened. Now Dapchi has happened, it's 1-1. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, because these are small girls and these are parents that are distraught, and you are seeking how to make political capital out of what has happened. I think anybody that does that is somebody that you don't have to trust, somebody that you don't have to give your vote to, because that is something you should never play politics with.
All right. We go over to Birnin Kebi. We have Mahmoud on the line. Hello.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Stober. Yeah, nice to have you guys on the line. My contribution goes to the Special Advisor to the President. Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
My contribution goes to the Special Advisor to the President.
Right.
That Captain Umar from your Lagos studio is always there with channels and other social and other media houses, giving good security advices. Does it mean that the president or the presidency does not take advice from all these people? On a personal note, I would like this kind of guy to be a special advisor to the president on security issues. He really has something to sell. And look at his experience and things he says based on this insecurity. I've been following him for some time now, both on AIT, on channels. He's doing a very good job. And yet we still have these issues. Things he says are things that do come to pass again. We should please try not to let these programs just go for waste. We should always let this kind of program to encourage other people to call in and say good things.
All right.
It will do him well if he sees his advice taken up. These are the kind of Nigerians we need, not the ones that will go and politicize things. They have things to say, but they will make it political. All right.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mahmoud. Well, the special advisor is here. The question was to him. So.
Well, the captain is a security analyst, and I'm sure he's a consultant. There are many ways in which he can work with the system, and I am sure that he can interface with those who are in charge of our security apparatus.
Well, at this point in time, we'll bring you the views of citizens. We took the cameras out and we wanted them to respond to these happenings in society. Let's get to see what our correspondents brought back. All right, looks like we have some challenges with bringing that, but we do assure you we'll get the citizens' opinion on this issue that we're discussing. We'll bring that to you just as soon as we can fix whatever hitch. All right, okay, so we can take it right away. Let's see.
The school girl, I'm very happy. Even especially Kaduna Road. Before, you can't pass Kaduna Road, but now we are free. No kidnapper for Kaduna Road. We thank God. The security is okay.
So if the federal government can put more with this facility in the schools, I think it's better that way.
We still hear they kidnap them, they take them. So what's the reason? What is behind it? So the government should do more. The intelligence gathering should go for the intelligence gathering very, very well and checkmate what is the cost.
I believe we can see a lot of difference in terms of security. But to me, federal government are really trying.
Well, the voice of the people there, and perhaps we should go back to our Maiduguri studio and talk to the theatre commander and say, look, well, all this has happened. The Dapchi girls are back. There's one girl left, and Nigerians are still worried about that. And let's also remember that there are still some Chibok girls left.
Yes, we are aware of that. But I am also aware that the federal government is handling that issue, just like the way he handled the Dapchi issue. I think there is something going on in respect of the balance of the Chibok girls and the one single Dapchi girl that is important to us. While we are doing our operations using the kinetic measures, I'm aware that the federal government is also handling that other aspect and hopefully we'll be able to get these girls out of where they are.
There are also some insurgents that had been apprehended in your operations, and we hear that some of them have been processed, and we do hear people say de-radicalized and handed over to be reintegrated with, reintegrated into society. But some Nigerians are still on edge about that. Can you truly say that these elements have been de-radicalized?
There's a process being managed by Operation Safe Corridor. When we arrest them, we profile them, and we carry out some measures on them. Thereafter, they are handed over to Operation Safe Corridor, who has the responsibility of carrying out the radicalization program and other programs with them, trying to make them useful and to bring them back to the society. We are working with the Operation Safe Corridor to ensure that those that have been de-radicalized are being handed over to their state governments to reintegrate them back into the society, and that is going on well. Currently, Borno State, Adamawa, Gombe, and Yobe State have moved out some of their people that have been seen to have been fully de-radicalized and who are ready to go back to their normal business life, and who have also denounced the issue of terrorism across board. However, we have their list, and we're also monitoring them in case if they decide to cross over board to the other side, we'll also get them. But for now, we don't have issues with that. The state government is handling that well.
Right. We'll return to you in a moment, but let's go to the phones again. And this call is from Lagos. Ibrahim calling in from Lagos. Hello, Ibrahim.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Cyril.
Yeah.
Please, I have a straightforward question. What's the theater commander in Maiduguri? Please, I just want to get a clear definition and a clear identity of the Sergeant Bako guy, because recently there has been trend on the social media about the Sergeant Bako guy, revealing how the whole operation took place, how 80 million naira was delivered, and how the soldiers were moved from their duty post. My questions are these. Number one, is there anybody in the Nigerian army that is named Sergeant Bako? If yes, where is he presently? And then the last question is he still in the Nigerian army, if at all he's a military man? Thank you.
All right. It's a straightforward question. You say you're directing the question at the theater commander?
Issue straight and clear. Well, these are mischief makers who have come up with these stories. In the nominal role of Nigerian army, we don't have anybody like Sergeant Bako. And for those mischief makers who want to discredit the army and maybe distract us, well, they will not succeed, because if somebody wanted to come out, authenticity of that person, if they come out with his army number, his unit, and where he has served, maybe one or two places he has served before, to be able to buttress what he's saying. But for just come and bring out junk right up and junk journalism somewhere, and then use social media to spread it, you want to tarnish the image of the Nigerian army, and you want to tarnish the image of the government of the day. That's unfortunate. It's very, very unfortunate that some Nigerians don't even respect the country they call Nigeria. How can somebody in his right sense write that kind of a thing? You want to tarnish the image of Nigerian army? It's Nigerian army, it belongs to all of us. It's highly unfortunate. Well, for the record straight, there is nobody with that identity in the nominal role of Nigerian army.
All right, straight answer, straight question. But again, we will come back to the presidential spokesman, because the federal government had made a statement about that. So we just like you to comment on that again.
Yes, the Minister of Information has spoken about it, and the Army spokesman, I think that's Brigadier General Texas Chukwu, has also denounced what has been going on social media, that no soldier like that exists. So naturally one can conclude that it's just the work of mischief makers.
All right. But what would push Nigerians to go to that extent to reap benefits from an unfortunate situation.
Yes, it's also wanting to make political capital out of it. Now, some people have seen that getting the Dapchi girls back is big credit to the administration. Elections are just months away, and they know that it will work in the favor of the government and the party in power, in government. And there are people who are eyeing that same position. So the thing is, let us demean them, let us demonize them. So they cooked up that story.
Among strategies that have been put across, and in trying to make sure this kind of a thing doesn't happen again, what would you suggest? We talked about strategies to put in place. We talked about, Captain Umar talked about, he talked about a blueprint for operations of certain key agencies of government. For instance, a very relevant question which he put across, would the same strategy been adopted in policing the borders in the south of the country be applicable to the northeast, where we've had cases of insurgency? What do we need to change, in other words?
Well, thank you very much, Cyril. I think on the 6th and 7th of March, my association, the Alumni Association of National Defense College, held a national security seminar, and the president was the special guest of honor. He was represented by the vice president. What we looked at was fighting tomorrow's warfare today. And we dealt a lot with these issues about the future war. What will it involve? Cyber warfare. The dark web is what they're using now to pass hate speech and narratives that do not add up. And we're going to have that increasingly coming up. We talk about technology and future warfare. How is technology going to come, and how will technology actually be decisive in warfare? We've seen what the drones do and the rest. Now, coming further home, I was fortunate to have been a member of the presidential committee that reviewed the national defense policy. And the president has assented to that in November last year. We hope it will be out. The whole defense policy is centered on what do the people do as part of defense. What do they do in defense of the country? It spells out the role of the citizens in the defense of their country, and what the theater commander is talking about comes in definitely, because certain things are lacking. You need some dedicated communication means by which people should be able to report things that are happening in their environment, strange things that are happening. As of now, who do they report to? How do they get it in? Now, if you look at the timeline between when these children were picked up from Dapchi, from the time the troops knew, to the times that the aircrafts were scrambled out to start looking for them, they had reached the Lake Chad already. And inside those kangaroo forests, you can fly 100 sortie in a day over the forest there, you will not see anything down. It has to be technology that will be able to see things for you down there. So definitely what Captain Umar was talking about is not, you are fighting an operation now, so the question of even customs and immigration doesn't even arise there now. No. Like I said, what we did and what I felt that the task force did too, the Lafia Dole did too, is that whenever we captured an area before and we found out that the area is relatively stable, we handed it over to the police. Because civil administration must start taking shape in places for them to function. It is when civil administration is in place, people will start coming back to their place. The military is there to provide the enable environment for the civil administration to function. So the question about police have a role. But what you need to do further, going further, is that we looked at the whole thing. We found out that we need to review our national security architecture. Not just review it, carry out a whole security sector reform that is encompassing, that carries, look at what the police are doing. How are they doing it now? How adequate are they? Are they prepared, trained and prepared for it? Is their manpower already available? The manpower that they have, can they adequately meet what they are doing? What sort of policing are they supposed to do? Are they, at this moment now, have they not thrown away the aspect of preventive policing? Have they not thrown away the aspect of detecting crime? What we are having now is fighting crime. And by the time that you start fighting crime, you are reacting to what the bad guys are doing. So they have the initiative. So definitely we must look at a security sector reform that looks at the policing, look at our intelligence community, looks at our armed forces, and look at the paramilitary as a whole. And we covered a lot of this in the National Defense Policy. And I believe and I pray too that now that the president has assented to it, it should be launched and implemented as soon as possible. That will be able to plug the loopholes in all this security setup that we're having here in this country, because it's quite easy. Look, enter Niger Republic across here. The moment you enter, a report has gone right up to Niamey that there's a strange person in this place, and this is what he's driving, this is what he's doing. Here in this country, it has become so disheartening that a group of bad guys will go into a community, camp outside, and launch attacks as and when they will. You see, our youth are no more adventurous. Our youth do not actually explore our environment. During our time, we conquered our environment and we made it friendly. Our youth must make the environment, conquer the environment and make it friendly, such that if anybody comes to camp in any of the hills, the forests around, they will be detected easily. We found out too that, look, you have this vast forest that you have, and you have what you call forest guard. There is no scheme of service for the forest guard. They don't have any technology to help them. Their numbers are so small that they are the ones who are supposed to be the first people to report to you any group of people that are camping in any forest. The forest became the harbor. It became what Boko Haram used, Sambisa forest. But by the time they were infiltrating to build up in Sambisa forest, people should have picked them and reported, not allowing them to form a stronghold there and become a problem. So we definitely need to do a whole security sector reform, see what we can do with all our security agencies, look at the numbers, look at the way they operate, look at the adequacy, look at how technology can come in and be a force multiplier, and see what we can do to make Nigeria safe. And that way, Nigerians will be able to have confidence, not even in government alone, but in the security agencies.
Well, back to our Lagos studio, Captain Mario, security analyst. What is the role of the citizen in all of this?
Our citizens have a very key role to play. In fact, I dare say the effects of terrorism are to the citizens as the citizens are to terrorism. What we have today is lethargy and, to some extent, complacency. And it works both ways. Because the citizens are lethargic and complacent, the law enforcement agencies do not really get the prompt and the drive they need to do more. If you hit social media and read, you'll understand what I'm saying. It really takes a lot of courage for you to go through social media if you are fighting in the Northeast and still put your best there. What is the role of the citizen? The citizen has to first and foremost own his own defensible space. What is defensible space? Defensible space, in the way the layman can understand me, is that space within which if you see someone you don't know, you begin to feel uncomfortable. The average Nigerian has no defensible space, or better put, doesn't even care about his defensible space anyway. You need to first and foremost understand that you are your very own first chief security officer. Any other thing that comes about it is a bonus. Looked at another way, the best security measures won't work for you if you are not security compliant. Just like the best doctors on earth can't really do anything for you if you won't do your medication. So what we are saying first and foremost is Nigerians need to leave the realm of security consciousness, which is aberrant. People say security consciousness, but I had never seen anyone as a consultant ask me the how of security consciousness. We need to first and foremost as citizens know the threats. Once you know the security threats, consciousness will dawn on you naturally. Most of us live, shake hands, sleep, and even carry placards to protest for the threat. That must stop. There is what you call a mutuality of responsibility between the citizens and the government. The government has its own responsibilities, and as citizens, we also have our own responsibilities, and each side must be seen to meet its own share of these responsibilities squarely.
Right. What is the government thinking in terms of the education of Nigerian children? Because there's those who tell you all what's happening in the Northeast is to some extent affecting not just the Northeast, the level of commitment to education, not just in the Northeast, but in other parts of the country. You have a situation where people have thought about taking their girls elsewhere, sending their girls to anywhere but a formal school because they seem to be the targets of abductors.
Well, we won't say because they are the target of abductors, then the girls stop going to school. Otherwise, we have played into the hands of those who wanted to drive them out of schools. Education must continue. Western education must continue to thrive along with other kinds of education. So it's the responsibility of government to ensure that our schools are secure. I have listened to the IG saying maybe about 3,000 personnel have been deployed to schools in the Northeast. The CG Civil Defense also says his men have been deployed. It's good, just as a temporary measure. Brigadier General will bear witness that unless you put a whole brigade or a division in each school, it may not secure the school. Because the way Boko Haram strikes, they come like a flood.
Besides, you can't have security personnel in every community and in every village, can you?
Not possible.
So what are we thinking about?
So it is important that we get to the end of this insurgency. And because it is all about ideology, the education must also address those who have imbibed that wrong ideology. That's why de-radicalization is very important. I know that in the Office of the National Security Advisor, there is a de-radicalization center there. Anyone that is arrested must be made to pass through that process. And then, of course, even those who are not part of the insurgency must be given the right education, particularly about religion, the right teaching. In fact, the clerics themselves need to have continuous education so that they preach messages that are balanced.
We just asked Captain Umar Aliyu about what the role of the citizens should be. Now, you spokesman for the president of this country, and how are you looking at your principle engaging with the citizens of Nigeria and getting them to buy into his ideas about citizens' responsibility towards putting this stuff?
Yes, what I have noticed is that the average Nigerian citizen thinks that security must flow from top to bottom, and not necessarily so. I even believe it must flow from bottom up. It is very important, like Brigadier General has said, like Captain Aliyu has said, that every part of society be part of the security chain. Right from ward level to communities to royal fathers to everybody must be part of the security chain. It's important. We always think that it must flow from top to bottom. Not always so. Anything that happens, everybody is shouting, President, President, President. It doesn't have to be like that every time. Yes, the Constitution says that the protection of life and property is the duty of government. But government is not only the president. It is government at the executive, legislature, it is government at state level, it is at local government level. It should be a joint effort.
General Rogers, let's come back to you in Maiduguri, and this is extremely important to put to you. What is the state of your men, your fighting force? You know, at the beginning we said there were all kinds of theories which you have debunked, but again, what can you say about the morale of your troops?
Well, I make bold to say that with the successes I've recorded since I assumed command, that the morale of my troops is very, very high, very, very satisfactory. It's on record that we've been able to decimate the Boko Haram sect in the Sambisa Forest, the Mandara Hills, the Kumshe Axis, and in so many other places in Bama local government and the Kwa general area. That has given a lot of morale boosting to my troops. And as I speak, the officers and men are in very high morale. The Chief of Army Staff, the other service chiefs have all visited my troops' location in recent time. And that has also helped to build the morale of the soldiers, the airmen and the seamen with me. So everybody across board, the morale has always been high since I was in command. And I also put it there that the Chief of Army Staff particularly, as way of building morale, has given some special promotion to most of our soldiers that have been operating in the Northeast. So to a very large extent, the morale is very high. Before this time around, we hear a situation where Boko Haram has overrun our locations, soldiers are running, but now, Boko Haram is the one running and going after soft target by doing suicide bombing and maybe attacking schools that we've seen. So the morale of the troops is very high. And I appreciate the service chief, the chief of defense staffs, for their support, and all my officers, some soldiers that are in the field, for showing high-level professionalism in what we are doing here.
Let's look at the point of intelligence gathering now. And a lot of times we hear people say that is what is suspect. How can that be improved on?
Thank you. I say, like I told you, the new defense policy looks at citizen participation in national defense. Right. And unless you know what security is and what your responsibility is to your security, it's just like your own body. If you are feeling fever and you don't know that you're supposed to report to the doctor, then you will die. You have an ailment, you should start detecting. You are the one who will tell the doctor, this is what is disturbing me. Then he will examine you and diagnose it. Citizens themselves must know all these things, and they are crucial, especially in asymmetric warfare. The citizens are crucial in information dissemination and management because the bad guys live with them. They are part of them. They move with them. They don't live off the land. They come and buy food inside. They stay there and move out. So once they are able to pick them up, but you must build the capacity of the citizens to be able to do that for you, because if you don't know what to do, if you don't have anything, you can't give it out. If I tell you I'm going to give you money now and I don't have money, I won't give you money. So what you demand from the citizens, and if you don't build their capacity to give you, they will not be able to give you. So you must build the capacity of the citizens across the board to be able to know what is of intelligence value or what is of security significance, to pass it on, and how do they pass it and to who. And when that person passes, he has to get where. And so you see, the school system, National Orientation Agency, our community leaders, prior to independence and even immediately after independence, we had this system. While if a visitor visits a village, he will be interrogated. And if they find out that he's a highly placed person, he will not sleep in the house of an ordinary person. He will sleep in the house of the district head or the hamlet head, or the village head, or the ward head. Now, over the years, this thing disappeared, where you find out that somebody will go and live in a community and nobody knows what he is doing. He's a bad guy. He's doing all sorts of things, and they keep multiplying. So we must build the capacity of the citizens to be able to know what they are and their responsibility to their own defense and security, because security starts with you. It doesn't start with government. And you know, the first law of survival is self-preservation.
Right. Okay, just as we wind down the segment of the discussion, and I'll just put this to the special advisor to the president, and I say the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Yes. And in all of this, a certain group of Nigerians feel that perhaps the president might not be truly in charge, or perhaps he's become a little bit rusty with such matters. Perhaps some of his commanders are not obeying him to the letter. Can you comment on that?
That would be a perception that would be completely wrong. Completely wrong. And that would be because they have not interfaced with the president, so they don't know him. When you interface with the president and you hear the kind of question he asks you, you know that this is a man that knows his onions. But the president is a naturally reserved person. So not too many people have an opportunity to interface with him and then to know the real person. But those he works with, the service chiefs who he holds periodic meetings with, they will know that this man knows what he's doing.
All right. Thank you very much. And we'll have to leave this discussion at this point in time. Like I said at the start of this program, we have a second topic coming up shortly. But for now, I would like to say thank you to our guests who are here. I'd like to thank the Special Advisor to the President, Media and Publicity, Mr. Femi Additional. Thanks for being here. We also like to thank you, Brigadier General John Temlong, Pioneer Commander of Multinational Joint Task Force, Baga. Thanks for being here.
It's a pleasure. Always being
And over in our Maiduguri Center, we say thank you to the Commander of Operation Lafia Dole, Major General Nicholas Rogers. Thank you for being part of this discussion. Our thanks also to Captain Umar Aliu, a security analyst, who joined us from our Lagos Center. Thank you very much. Stay with us on NTA Tuesday Live. We'll be back shortly. NTA Tuesday Live will be back shortly.
Sinoni Restaurant, serving authentic, delicious, and healthy Chinese cuisine.
We released Dapchi Schoolgirls. The euphoria, success story, and lessons is the focus this week on NTA Tuesday Live. NTA Tuesday Live, incisive, informative, and educative. Don't miss it.
Nigerians, our fearless officers and men of the Nigerian military are winning the war against Boko Haram. Today, all occupied territories have been recovered and Boko Haram has been degraded. Our affected brothers and sisters are getting their lives back. However, they are now after you and me. In our mosques, churches, schools, motor parks, markets, entertainment centers, and public gatherings. Be vigilant. Be security conscious. Report suspicious persons, objects, and movements to the police and other security agencies. The security of our nation is a duty for you and me. Nigeria, unite against terrorism.
This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
The struggle for independence had been a long and tough one. Our founding fathers and compatriots sacrificed their comfort and even shed their blood. We cannot at this point in history afford to spirit away their sacrifices for immediate but temporary gains of today. Let us emphasize what unites and not what divides us. Working for the unity of purpose with a stronger vision for a better tomorrow. NTA, growing with the nation.
Nigeria, the only country we can train with remarkable potentials to excel. Let us believe in ourselves and change our attitude for the sake of our country and generations unborn. Let us revive our cultural values, which are our essence as a nation. Let us renew the spirit of patriotism and hope in our dear country. Do not take or give bribe. Be punctual always. No more African time. We can't expect to be global citizens and operate on African time. Join the queue. Insist that people are attended to on a first-come basis, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Good people, great nation.
Make you report any crooked person, object or wakajube movement to police and security agent demo.
The security of our nation now work for all of us, plus including me and you.
Nigeria, make we unite against terrorism. Now, Federal Minister of Information and Culture bring on this message.
NTA Tuesday Live, a network issue-oriented innovation talk show.
Thanks for staying with us. And now on to our second matter tonight. Well, just as the nation breathed with relief following the release of the Dapchi girls, came a number of conspiracy theories bandied in both the mainstream and social media. And in the wake of negative comments on the security situation in the country, many Nigerians have expressed disappointment with statements by otherwise prominent senior citizens which are seen as capable of threatening peace. Now that's the subject of our second topic on Tuesday Live. Let me introduce our guests to you. We have here joining us in our Abuja studio, Major General Nuhu Angbazo, who is the Chief of Civil Military Affairs of the Nigerian Army. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure, Cyril.
And also we're joined by Dr. Chidia Maduekwe, Managing Director of the Nigerian Film Corporation. Thanks for being here.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Right. General, of recent we've heard so many things being said and accusations that the Nigerian Army may not be neutral in terms of conflict. In fact, some have outrightly said that the army is partisan. How do you respond to that?
Well, thank you so much, Cyril and NTA, for providing this fantastic platform for the Nigerian Army to be able to explain some issues here. First of all, the Nigerian Army has over the years conducted operations in line with its constitutional rules and also in aid to civil authority. So these operations and exercises were duly authorized, and it is done with absolute professionalism. Now let me just step back a little bit to just further let the nation know that, one of the first steps that the current Chief of Army Staff took when he took over command was to articulate his vision, which was very clear. That is to have a professionally responsive Nigerian army in the discharge of its constitutional roles. And those two are pillars that actually have to do with professionalism and responsiveness. So, and that has been the guiding principles of all of our exercises and the conduct of our men in the field, because we also have, the various rules of engagement and the code of conduct which are derived from this vision. So that in itself is putting in place a proactive measure by the Nigerian Army to ensure that the conduct of all of its operations are done with absolute professionalism. Now, over the years, we have seen the nature of our threats, and then, of course, the nature of the warfare that we get, that we are going to be involved in, which has to do with asymmetric warfare. And, that has been an area where the Nigerian Army has been, and other services have been multi-tasked, and at the same time, they are very much involved in the asymmetric nature of warfare, which involves having our adversaries living even within and amongst the citizens.
Right.
So there is that likelihood that there are some misunderstandings, misconceptions that the Nigerian Army is taking sides, but I can assure you that is an area where absolutely that cannot be true. And of course, in the light of recent happenings, the Nigerian Army has taken the necessary administrative and command and control measures to ensure that, these assertions are investigated.
All right. Let's come to you, Dr. Madwikwi. What do you say to all of these? With what's happening, the fight against terrorism, the effort to secure lives and property, there are so many challenges, with the military being deployed in otherwise areas that we would not have expected them to be in. Yet, there's a feeling, and in some quarters say that they're partisan.
It is very outrageous, and it's a statement that is not tenable, because the military for a long time, or Nigerian Army indeed for a long time, has been the remaining hope for our national unity. So any effort to decimate the image of the corporate integrity of the Nigerian Army is an effort targeted at the jugular of this nation. It's an effort intended to witness a rapid downward dismemberment of this country. And it cannot be protected under the concept of freedom of speech, because even the Fifth Amendment in the United States made it clear that not all speech can be protected, particularly when the speech is intended to call for an imminent lawlessness in the geographical area it is meant to apply. With all due respect, it's a revered general, a man who has paid his due, but one cannot understand, and one may want to sympathize with him if at this twilight of his life he will want to watch this country he labored so much to build to come to its abyss. I guess that's not. He may have been angry. We don't know why he was angry, but then I guess he went too far to bring such a calamitous statement to bear on the Nigerian Army, particularly when we know that this very Nigerian Army have been paying the supreme sacrifice, even in his own state of Taraba. It's very gruesome to watch a Nigerian Army or hear of a Nigerian Army being beheaded in this current. It's very gruesome during the bad days of Boko Haram to watch a Nigerian military Air Force officer being taken out from the field because his ill-equipped fighter plane or helicopter was brought down by Boko Haram. it is sad to watch Nigerian army being, decimated by a ragtag insurgents. And then one of us will come and now and say that this Nigerian army, will be taking sides. And under your watch as Minister for Defense, you deploy the same Nigerian army to take care of, a whole village, as the case may be. So I think it is a sinister call, particularly when you take it in tandem with other similar symmetrical commentary coming from other people. This is a typical example of what politicians do when they want the military to take over government.
All right. You talk about other people and politicians, but let me come to general. Does it make it any more difficult for you to put in true perspective that statements like this are not coming from the quarters the military usually refers to as a bloody civilian who knows nothing, but coming from a senior comrade at arms? Does that say anything to you? Do you worry about that? That if a statement is made by, people with military background as well, knowing that the citizens might say, well, he should know because he's one of them.
Cyril, the fact remains is that the Nigerian army does not intend to join issues with anybody, especially to such as him who has actually commanded this very same army. However, the statement that was made it very clear that we will continue to remain apolitical. We will continue to do our jobs in a very professional manner. And, as a result of that, usually exercises like this, there is, an after exercise report, in which, there is a postmortem of the conduct of such exercises. However, I can categorically tell you that within the powers of the Chief of Army Staff himself, he has already directed the Department of Policy and Plans, which actually initiates the policies of the Nigerian army to set up an investigation panel. And that panel is with the intent of really looking at our own personnel on the ground. All other issues we have is supervisory, headquarters, the defense headquarters, we have the ministry, and they are handling, other issues. But the Nigerian army is more concerned as to the issues that were brought up to look into, what our troops, what our commanders, in particular in Taraba State, because basically the Nigerian army is deployed there for exercise I Am Apatma. And we believe that by the time this panel goes in, it will be able to, bring out a lot of issues that will help the Chief of Army Staff and the Army Headquarters to be able to command and control the army in a much,
All right. Which is the same question I'd put to Dr. Maduekwe, for instance, and say some said, yes, scathing as those remarks might have been, perhaps you should look the other side, and while smarting under such remarks from one of them, it might be time for the institution to take a look at itself and see perhaps there are gaps anywhere where it would need to take care of to avoid any misunderstanding, if you so put it. And they say, after all, the general who made the statement is a human being himself. He also has failings.
Yeah. One cannot say that the Nigerian army all of a sudden is 100% perfect. We all witnessed to the massacre that happened at Baga some time ago during the former administration, which cost us a very warm relationship with the United States government. So you find out that certainly when you deploy the military to contain some of these forces, there are times they can go on the excess. But engaging, when you make a speech or make a comment, you have to weigh it, and know where it tilts. Nigeria is a highly combustive state that in trying to check maybe if there are, quote unquote, any excesses of the Nigerian military in the operational areas of I am Akpata, that's the CAT operation, or the cat race, you be careful not to tilt the balance in a manner that we suddenly now will have more work for the Nigerian army. Assuming the people over there now start carrying arms as they have been asked to defend themselves to maybe imaginary enemy that is not there, it will be creating more load on the Nigerian army, whom we know are already very stretched. So the bottom line is that we have to be statesmanly in making this comment. You have access to the military high command. They were your boys. You can inform them, and I think they will take you very, very serious.
Even a few days ago, there were reports of soldiers being killed in Kaduna State, for instance. How does this impact on situations like that?
Exactly what I'm trying to say here, that you have to be careful how you raise, how you demonize the Nigerian army. That is the sole remaining unity, symbol of our unity. If you brush them in a fit of anger for whatever may have happened because you don't feel too comfortable about them, and they start being thrown stone at or being killed anyhow, we are left bare as a country, 200 million people. These people are right there on the front line. They are not perfect, but I'm saying that there are 1 million ways of bringing them. They're under civil authority these days. They are not as ambitious as they used to be before. So you have all the civilian line of command to readdress any imperfection in them, not to bring them out in a manner that me and you know may not have any proof or test of time.
As we look into this, what's civil-military relations like?
Well, incidentally, I am the Chief of Civil Military Affairs for the Nigerian Army. And I can assure you that this department was created in 2010. And it is actually aimed at bridging the gap between the military and the civil society. And, the aim of the department is to be able to ensure that all issues having to do with military interaction based on our current threat analysis, in which we are now dealing with asymmetric warfare. And it means that we will see ourselves more being multitasked and being closely, operating within, civil domain. During the time when it was conventional warfare, you can predict where the enemy is. It's way across the river. And but now they are all embedded within. So it presupposes that there will be times in which there will be friction.
All right.
And as a result of that, before I just quickly end, as a result of that, just last year, the Department of the Human Rights Desk of the Nigerian Army was opened by the current administration, the Chief of Army Staff, in which all issues having to do with perceived, human rights abuses are to be addressed. Likewise, too, we have the call center, which is available on number 193, that you can call from any part of the country, where issues having to do with complaints, issues having to do with operational, and security-related matters, can actually be called to the center, and there is a person there who will be 24 hours, will be able to pick up. So these are all avenues in which we are trying to ensure that the civil-military relations is more robust and much cordial.
Right, we have on the line from Maiduguri, Ayodeji. Hello.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir. Hello.
Hello, Ayodeji, are you there?
Please, my question to the senior man officer on line is, what do we do about this security agents, the army officers that going back to entertainment centers with uniform, rifle, and trying to show people that it's what they are for in the town?
Sorry, we didn't quite get that, Ayodeji. Could you repeat what you just said?
I said, okay, what do we do about the spiritual officers, the soldiers that go about in the town? Entertainment centers with their rifle or uniform.
Oh dear.
I'm not sure I can hear. Unfortunately,
we still can't get that. Can you try one more time? You're so low.
Okay, I mean the security agents, the army officers on patrol within the geopolitics that go about with rifle on uniform to entertainment centers.
Well, maybe you might have to call back. The only thing I can make out is something about a rifle and uniform.
Yes.
It's not getting through really. So just sorry. Well, maybe we might have to ask you just call back and see what we can do. All right. Yes, there have been issues of friction. And like you said, it's normal when you have operations like this going on at such critical times. People are on edge. But how should the citizens relate with the military, the army?
The citizens should continue to have confidence in the military. Indeed, they should have a sense of pride that these are people who have left the comfort zones of their home, and then they should be able to give them support in anywhere they see them. If they see them walking on the road, they should be able to, even give them a ride. If they are in the market, they must be made to understand that we cherish them. We understand what they are involved with. It's not easy for one to sign out to say, I'm ready to lay my life to defend you. And then there are now civil points they have established, like he talked about the human rights unit and the call centers. They're all available for us to call to make a report as to certain bad behaviors we've noticed in the Nigerian army officials, as the case may be, so that they can take it up from there. But we must appreciate them, we must respect them, we must value them, and from there we can see to it that they make any amend.
All right, back to the phones now. Okay. Have we been able to retrieve that call? Okay, this is another call. This one is from Lagos. Kashim calling in from Lagos. Hello. Hello, Kashim.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah, I just want to appreciate Dr. Chidia. Good evening, can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, go ahead.
Well, I want to appreciate Dr. Chidia for an impressive assessment, of the whole scenario. He is not a military man, so he was talking the truth very clear and frank, particularly when he was talking about T.Y. Daniel. I really appreciate that he was talking like an elder statesman, unlike T.Y. Daniel himself. He never behaved like an elder statesman. As a retired general, an experienced individual, age, everything, but trying to cause chaos in this country. It is unfortunate of the side. I do really appreciate Dr. Chidia's statement. He's a very frank and elder statesman and intelligent person. People like you should live longer. May God bless you. The caller before me was asking the Major General there that there are military officers that go about in uniform and armed. They go to entertainment centers, marketplaces, and what have you. What is he going to do about that? I think that was what he was asking.
All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Maybe now you can address that.
Yeah.
We've been able to give us a little bit of what the last caller had said.
Well, if I do understand the question, about military men going into the town with their weapons. Well, first of all, it depends on the location. If you're there in the northeast, for instance, you're advised to always be out in pairs, with with your colleagues, and you should be ready at all times because, it wouldn't be advised for you to go there out without your weapon. But then, having said that, whatever it is, if it's entertainment, centers, within our military, barracks, we have various entertainment centers which, they can all be, attend. And it is not permissible for them to be out of the barracks with any type of weapon. And of course, before they even go out into the town, they are usually given what we call town passes, in which they register and they are known that they have gone out to town. So there are so many measures to ensure that, a personnel does not go out unauthorized if he's not deployed officially with his weapon to go out and carry it along. It's not permissible. However, if it is within a theater of operations where there is a need for him to be at all times with his weapon, certainly, the code of conduct will clearly stipulate how you conduct yourself in such a field. So it really depends on where exactly, if,
all right.
That is the case.
Okay, from Kaduna we have Ibrahim calling in. Hello, Ibrahim.
I want to also appreciate what...
Hello?
regarding what that General has said. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. But you see, there is a problem with the military. I want to draw their attention that professionalism is not only accumulation of arsenal weapons. It has to do with principles as well. And especially now that the kind of war we're fighting, the relationship with the populace is important. And they cannot achieve this unless they are able to adopt this set-up approach. This idea of we are on top of the situation even when they are not, it will be started. Just now, the general is talking about the 11 people that were killed in Gusau. It was a clear attack, not this asymmetric thing. It was an attack in the wind. A surprise attack was given to them. So unless they try to go and state, they tell us where they are held, admit where they are held, and who will be in it. Thank you very much.
All right. I think perhaps maybe just a bit of that was clear to us. But let me come to Dr. Maduekwe here and say, there are so many things going on in the country at the same time. And there's hardly any part of the country that is immune from skirmishes, conflicts, some of them real violent conflicts for that matter. And this is stretching the security agencies. Sometimes some Nigerians will tell you it's stretching them to the limits. And in situations like this, people, out of the frustration of their situation, make statements. But you think that some of these comments are extreme? They go overboard?
They're very extreme, like I said. Nigeria, as it is today, is a highly combustive environment. And that we watch what we say so that we don't tip the edge. And it's, of course, clear with all the challenges coming almost the whole 6 regions of the country. You find out that you want to ask yourself, okay, why are those challenges there? You find out that, well, politics, to start with, cannot be ruled out. Why? Because, democracy gives you a certain sense of freedom. Yeah, in an immature society like our own, because I can't say we're that matured, because we do carry, the kind of comments we make shows that we're not matured. You find out that we can go the other extreme in anger to pull strings here and there. We may lose election and we will not feel that we have lost that election. We go into stoking other kind of fire in order to see whether that person on seat will not be comfortable until maybe the time comes for us to vote that person out. So we are bad losers, and that affects us in very other means. And again, we're leadership-wise, we are inefficient. And so we tend to look for other straws to cling to as to the reason why we are inefficient in our leadership deliverables. So you can say that I could be a governor somewhere if I have not been able to pay salaries of my people, and I'm losing popularity of those people, I may want to look the other way, or even encourage some kind of civil strife to emerge, so that my people will get busy, forgetting that I'm owing them salary, I'm owing them lack of infrastructure, I'm collecting about 2 billion naira of their money as security funds and not being accounted for, so that when there is crisis, they can look other way. So all these things makes us an immature, democratic space, and so that is the burden we are carrying. We will only grow over it. There can be no quick win solution to it. It cannot be solved by a wave of hand. It cannot be solved by just one particular presidency. It can be solved over time as the democratic atmosphere continue to learn from mistakes and put better things on ground. Then we can evolve over it. But anybody wishing it away or thinking that just by one sweep of hand that things will get right is not so. We will pass this stage. It's part of our democratic growth. We must surely pass through it.
It's been seen that perhaps the military is best at defending territorial integrity, warding off external aggression, but sometimes, like as in this case, the military is involved in a lot of internal operations. Has the army, for instance, been able to re-strategize in order to carry out those internal operations as much as possible with to the barest with the barest form of conflict with the civilian populace?
Yes, there are both right now kinetic and non-kinetic lines of our military operations. And this is as a result of the evolution of the various type of security threats that we are beginning to contend with as a result of the asymmetric warfare, which is different from what was in the past. And of course, the National Defense Strategy itself, which has been, signed in, has also guided, the military as to how their, operations and how the conduct of such operations will be. The truth of the matter is that our threats are both internal and external, and therefore the Constitution makes it very clear our role. And one of them is actually coming to the aid of civil authority when called on. And so we are within the mandate of our constitutional responsibilities that if we are called in for issues having to do with, insecurity internally, then of course we will deploy. And all of our training is geared towards both internal and external, contingencies. So we are very much prepared. Our training continues to evolve. As I said, the vision and the thrust given by the Chief of Army Staff makes it very clear that apart from kinetic lines of operations, we're also dealing with the non-kinetic, which is winning the hearts and minds of our people. And therefore, you see, for every exercise, for every operation that is conducted, there will be a non-kinetic line, which has to do with provision of medical resource, outreaches, provision of educational, packages, ensuring that we're able to deal with some issues having to do with sinking of boreholes, and so many other non-kinetic arms, which actually enables our operations. So we are dealing with both the physical, which is having to do with our weapon system, with our platforms, while at the same time too, we are now evolving means of being able to win the hearts and minds of the citizens. So that is a paradigm shift from the past, where it was just basically attritional warfare, where we deal with only our contending adversary or enemy, as the case may be, who is probably also trained, in a way as ours. But here now, the space itself, it traverses everywhere. So That is the issue of our current fourth generation warfare.
Dr. Maduekwe, two issues here. Is this the sign of the times on the one hand, and how should opinion leaders conduct themselves, air opinions at sensitive periods like this?
Signs of the time, yes, in terms of politics gone wrong. Take, for example, the Benue experience. When the military were not put in there, people were shouting Blue River. Why send police? They don't like Benue. That's why they didn't send army. They send army there. Why army? They have come to collude, to maim, to kill. You can see contraptions here and there. Is politics gone wrong? That is sign of the time. The other aspect you raised, which is
opinion leaders.
Opinion leaders. Again, you find out that yes.
And this may be at whatever level of society, young, old, you know.
It is even made worse because today the social media is there open. Everybody's a newscaster, just like Cyril here now. You find out that they contract their message, they push it out. We are now told there was one Bako who was part of those who planned to kidnap the Dapchi girls. And some people will religiously repost it. We are now told that, yeah, these people were flown by plane. And you wonder, which airline, which Boeing 707 carried them? Could it be helicopter? How many helicopters could have carried them? Nobody wants to reason again. Or we just want to say, yes, we knew this was a cooked up matter. When they were not released, they were saying, no, this government is lousy. You see what we mean? They're inept. They were there. These people were. So it is politics gone wrong. And there's nothing we can do than to remain focused, knowing that we are doing the right thing. So that at the end, our records will show that we are doing the right thing and we are on the right path.
General, in the face of all this, you give the military stance, the army stance. What will the army continue to do in situations like this where there is some form of mutual suspicion?
Well, first of all, as I told you earlier on, that the Nigerian army has taken it upon itself to look at the various operations, especially there in Taraba State.
Without prejudice.
Without absolutely no prejudice. And it does not preclude any ministerial or above investigations either. And that is just a way of ensuring that there is absolute, command and control, and we know exactly the conduct of our commanders in the field. But then the Nigerian army will absolutely not accept anything having to do with unauthorized persons bearing arms.
Right.
Until and when those who are elected to represent this nation in the houses of assembly, houses of the Senate, the House of Reps, pass a law that authorizes people, to bear arms, we will stick to the laws that is currently in existence.
All right.
And whoever it is, it is not going to be acceptable. We are coming out to support the police in ensuring that we mop up the proliferated arms and ammunition in our society.
All right, so at this point, we must leave this discussion and say thank you to our guest, Major General Nuhu Angbazo, Chief of Civil Military Affairs. Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Cyril.
And Dr. Chidia Maduekwe, Managing Director, Nigerian Film Corporation. Thank you once again. It's a pleasure. Always see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it on Tuesday Live. We thank you for watching. Next week, we'll be back with Tuesday Live. I'm Cyril Stober. Bye for now.